Right, welcome back, everybody. We are live with another episode, Real Estate Without Borders, and I'm really excited today. We have Alex Koper on. Alex is the president and CEO at Global Mortgage, and I'm a big fan of what they're doing. Being in real estate here in Cabo, one of the most common questions we get right off the bat are financing options, and there has been quite a void in this field for a while in Mexico, and Global has really kind of stepped up to help fill that. So without further ado, Alex, do you have any opening remarks?
Hey, Fletcher, thanks. And hi, everybody. I'm really happy to be here today, talk a little bit about, what Global Mortgage does, right? But just in general, how we're helping power what used to be impossible and make it possible now. So it's really a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me on.
All right, well, let's jump right into it, Alex. Kind of maybe like an intro to Global Mortgage, what you guys are doing, and really, we can even go before that. How did you end up at Global?
Yeah. So I joined the Global Mortgage team about a year ago or so. And Global, I'll just kind of give you a little background on Global, and then we'll sort of tie into me. Global was founded in 2017 in Los Cabos. And really in the last, I would say 24 months has really gotten going and focused on specifically on the foreigner, right? So there are a lack of transparent options for foreign buyers and current foreign homeowners in Mexico and other parts of Latin America, right? And as the appetite for foreign homeownership grows, right, like it becomes more and more important for companies to create solutions to help people accomplish their dreams and their goals, and that's what we're sort of focused on, right? Is acting as that intermediary and helping folks, achieve what used to not be possible, and do so in a reasonable manner, and and in an affordable way, right? And I think that's our focus and our vision and our dream. And I think it will eventually, we're deeply rooted in the sentiment that like homeownership shouldn't be limited to someone's home country of citizenship, and a responsibly originated mortgage loan is like a really, really powerful tool for people, and so that's our focus, right? We have a great team on both sides of the border, US and in Mexico, and we engage with clients and real estate partners, and with third-party agents in on the ground in various parts of Mexico, every single day, on behalf of our clients. So there's just like a quick high level about us. My background is in mortgage originations and consumer finance and private banking. So I joined Global from Citigroup. Previous to that, I was with Bank of America, and before that with Wells Fargo. So it's really exciting to take not only my passion for Mexico, but also the experience that I've gained for large global banks, and apply it to growing and scaling this business to really help people, and that's really awesome.
Nice. Yeah, it seems like you're really a perfect fit for that, because I know I believe you lived or studied abroad in San Miguel, and then you got the banking background and all that. I'm curious, where exactly are your markets within Mexico? I know Cabo, but can you kind of expound on what other areas?
Yeah, definitely. So our headquarters for Mexico are in Los Cabos. We have, our processing function, underwriting function, and then our closing attorneys are all in Los Cabos. We have sort of remote office, remote staff as well, both in the US and in other parts of Mexico. We serve primarily, foreigners in markets where we can get title insurance. So I think that's really a critical thing to mention, is that we really are focused on doing things the right way and helping our clients to actually own what they're buying, and to, take the time to research, the title history of the property as an example, and ensure that, the transaction can settle, appropriately. So not only do we lend them, are very careful with respect to looking at the property and the collateral and making sure that we can secure and perfect that lien against the property, which really results in the client winning, right? And so today we're focused in parts of Mexico like Puerto Vallarta, Punta Mita, Sayulita, San Miguel de Allende. These are just a couple of areas where we've successfully helped clients. And then we're really interested in looking at the eastern, side of the country and in Quintana Roo and some of those areas. It's a little bit harder for us to, do that thoughtful diligence with some of those properties because it's harder to get title insurance, right? What's interesting is like our mortgage advisors talk to our clients all the time. And say like, well, if you were buying a house in the United States, would you ever do that without an appraisal or without a title insurance search at least, right? And the answer is no, right? So we try to apply that same methodology to foreign home purchases as well.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I was speaking with somebody about a week ago, and he mentioned that Los Cabos actually has the most sophisticated MLS system in Latin America. Matter of fact, that could actually be better than some places in the United States. But you have the infrastructure for all that. And once you go to other areas of Mexico, licensing for brokers, title, all this stuff can become a little bit more difficult. So I was curious. You guys do a lot of work in Vallarta and Nayarit, right?
Yep, we do in Jalisco, Nayarit. Yep, those two states, Guanajuato as well. But yeah, Cabo by far, you're right. Like the resources and the sophistication of it is, far and away above a lot of other parts. I think Nayarit and Jalisco are definitely getting there. They have a great MLS. And when because it's not just about the MLS and about the data, right? It's really also about the ability to perfect the lien for us, like from an investor standpoint, which really benefits the client through the fide garantia, and then all of the research that we do on the property, and the legal transfer of the property, and ensuring that that's properly recorded, right? And so it's very easy, if you will. I wouldn't say easy, but it's my team would laugh at me if they heard me say easy, but it's there's a lot of resources available in Los Cabos, and for foreign buyers to securely purchase real estate, right? And I think that's a huge win for everybody.
Yeah, and so we're in July of 2021 right now. I'd say March of last year was really when, stuff started to hit the fan. In Cabo, it was like, hey, it's such a tourism-driven economy that it was a little scary at first, but we've seen, crazy interest in buying right now in Cabo. So I'm just curious, how have you guys been a lot busier, maybe in the past year, the past like 9 months or so? What are you guys seeing as far as business-wise?
Yeah, because of the nature of our business is so connected to yours, right, or to a real estate broker's business, we've seen the same level of increase, and we're focused on growing and scaling our team to be able to serve that new influx of buyers. I think things have really changed, to your point, right? Whether it's the ability for folks to work remotely, or some sort of shift in mindset of like, hey, let's actually, instead of putting off this dream that we have, let's actually, take steps to make it happen. I've really seen that shift, which is really cool. And it's so much fun, right? Like what we get to do. I know in the real estate business, the same, right? Because you actually get to help people accomplish what was a dream for maybe like decades, right? And make that possible. And it's a responsibility that we take really, really seriously. And it makes work not really feel like work when you get to do stuff like that.
Yeah, I personally thought there was going to be more remote workers moving to areas like Los Cabos, and that certainly is. But you really hit the nail on the head. I think a lot of people just had some time to really kind of think about where they were and what they wanted to do, and just realize kind of like how short life is during a pandemic made you kind of reassess what was going on. So I think a lot of that has to do with people taking that moment to kind of say, hey, why don't we do this now as opposed to waiting 5, 10 years or whatever. And so, Alex, I really want to get into, for people that are listening, what is like your typical loan? What type of rates are you guys offering? How much down? What is the duration? Information
Sure.
like that.
Yeah. So I just want to start by just talking a little bit, back up a little bit and talk about how Global is structured. So Global Mortgage Group is a conglomeration of 5 different entities, 2 of which are US based entities and 3 of which are Mexican entities. The actual originator of record for our mortgage loans is a SAFOM, which is a non-bank financial institution recognized in Mexico, right? And I think that's the critical piece here for our clients, right? We are like regularly audited. We are accountable to regulators on an ongoing basis. We get surprise audits from Conducef, which is, kind of like the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau in the US, sort of like the CFPB, right? Who looks out for consumer rights. And we take that really seriously, and it really serves our clients' interests, right? Because when you're coming to a foreign country and you're doing a real estate transaction, and many of our clients have done 10, 20, 30 mortgage transactions prior to working with us, and it's really important that you have that level of security and stability and the capital behind you to come through on helping. And so we've been really focused on building that foundation the last couple of years, and the last year in particular. Really thoughtful processes, and then great partnerships with the regulatory bodies in Mexico and in the United States. So our loans, all of that said, right, our loans are originated in US dollars, and then they're serviced by a US servicing entity in US dollars. We have no one of our key operating principles is that living in Mexico, or your Mexico homeownership experience, really should be exotic, but your mortgage should not. And further, like, our mortgages are boring, and that's a really good thing. So all of our loans have a fixed rate. We have no prepayment penalty. We have no balloon payments. We have no funny stuff, right? And I think when you're a foreigner looking for a mortgage in a foreign country, if you don't come to us, you'll end up with something like that. And so I think we've really differentiated ourselves in that respect. We lend up to 60% of the appraised value or purchase price. And then we also, for well-qualified clients, allow them to finance closing costs up to 65%. So it does require more of a down payment than maybe we might be accustomed to in the US with the standard sort of 20% down. But generally that's, our guidelines. We offer term lengths up to 25 years. So we can keep payments, pretty low. And then again, we service in US dollars, right? And through a US entity. So we mail, just like you would get a 1098 INT in the US for your mortgage interest paid at the end of the year, we generate the same thing, even though the property is in Mexico. So some clients, and again, not providing any tax advice here, but some clients report being able to deduct the interest on their US returns. Similar in the product set, and that's very deliberate on our part, right? We know that clients, foreign buyers in Mexico, are looking for that security and that stability, and that secure legal property transfer aspect of things. And so we have a very tight sort of process that enables us, number one, to consistently come through, provide information really, really quickly that's necessary, both to the broker, to the agent, and to the client, diligently and collaboratively with all parties to get the transaction closed as expeditiously as possible. So that's kind of us in a nutshell. We're really good at what we do, and we're really focused in on a very specific solution.
Cool. So it's like minimum 40% down, up to 25 years. And, generally what type of rate would you be looking at?
Yeah, so our rates we employ risk-based pricing, and so it's FICO scored, US FICO score driven, LTV driven, so the amount you put down, and then there's a little price adjuster in there for debt to income ratio, and our rates range from the 7s all the way up to like the 10s. Most clients fall in the 8% range, somewhere in there. We're consistently and constantly looking for ways that we can source lower cost of capital, and looking to bring those rates down eventually. But generally speaking, like that's pretty competitive in the local market. And if you couple that with sort of all of the other stuff that we do and where we help, I think, it's a pretty compelling value proposition for clients generally. The other thing I'll mention is like, when we were kind of talking about that shift in mindset and turning dreams into reality and so forth, right? I think people have also sort of started to recognize the value of investment property purchases, right? And how you can cover property costs even just by renting your vacation home a couple of weeks a year, as particularly if they're peak weeks. And so we allow that, right? So we allow vesting in a corporation, in an LLC, in a trust, as long as it's a US entity. And we don't mark up the rate if you're going to rent it out for either the entire year or any part of the year. We also, besides just purchase, right, we offer refinance mortgages along the same lines as the same credit policy guidelines generally, and cash out refinance. So even though Global has only started originating loans in the last 3 years and funding loans in the last 3 years, clients have been buying, US citizens have been buying property in Mexico for the last 30 or 40, right? And so a lot of the major banks that were doing foreign mortgages kind of pulled out in 2008, 2009, right around the time of the financial crisis. And so we find a lot of owners come to us, current owners, whether they're renting the house or living in it, and use a cash out refinance loan from us in order to get liquidity out of an asset that really has been illiquid historically for them, and return that capital and be able to use that capital in other ways. So we do a fair amount of refinance and cash out refinance business. We also help folks that have taken developer financing and they have a balloon payment coming up, and that can be scary, right? If you a couple of years from now, you have to come up with a couple $100,000, or potentially go into default or lose that dream home that you bought. We help pay off those existing liens and do a lot of that business as well. So
you hit on quite a bit there, and Alex, when you first started talking, you mentioned transparency. And just from my experience of doing due diligence on lending companies in Mexico, it's Global's far and away. And like you said, it's not going to be anything hidden, adjustable rates going up or balloon payments, things like that. And it's what you see is what you get with you guys. And, starting at 7%, 8%, I mean, most Americans might look at that and kind of freak out, but that's a pretty good rate right now. And just like you're saying, I have a lot of people, like I just had a lady reach out that was in Los Angeles, and she was telling me, she's like, hey, look, I'm at the point where I want to invest in real estate, but it's just not making sense. So a lot of these lower rates in the States are really jacking up prices. And she was just talking about, a property, like a 1-bedroom there that she was looking, to rent out, was like $600,000 or more. The HOA fees were like $500 a month. She's like, I wouldn't even make it cash flow. It's starting not to make sense. So you are seeing a lot of people looking here, just pure investment. Like, some people are like, hey, I want to live there part of the year, but there's a lot of people reaching out where they're just like, man, I just want to get like 2 places down there, rent it out because the income's in the US dollar. I do think that's continuing to grow as you see the pricing go up in the United States.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. And you're right. You're spot on with respect to the sort of sticker shock on the interest rate. And it's a conversation our mortgage advisors have with clients and prospects every day. Right. If you think about a 30-year fixed mortgage in the US today, you're right. It is really impacting this insane price appreciation, sort of like, yeah, insane is probably a good word for what's happening in Los Angeles, for example, right now with price appreciation. But, take a step back and look at like a mortgage in the US that's not for the roof over your head, right? Not owner occupied, not going to be sold to Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac or, held on a bank's balance sheet, second home, vacation home, investment property. Like those rates are a lot closer to ours than to that 3% 30-year fixed mortgage. So when you step back and look at that, or also when clients look at like the impact of liquidating other assets or pulling cash out of the market, for example, it really starts to change that picture. But we're not all things to all people, and we do everything, to your point, like we sweat the small stuff and we pay attention to the details. And we are, that premium product, right? Like we do a really good job for our clients, so that their asset is protected and they actually own what they're buying, and their property taxes will get paid on time every year, that kind of thing, right? And we take that responsibility really, really seriously. And the adage of you get what you pay for is very true with respect to foreign property purchases and or financing transactions in a foreign country.
So I'm curious here as well, Alex. I believe you guys have a $100,000 minimum for borrowing. I'm curious, what is, if you just off the top of your head, what is probably like the average appraised value of house or piece of real estate here that you're usually working with? Is it like, above 500,000, less than $1 million? What would you say is your average price of a house or that you're dealing with?
Yeah, so our average loan size historically in the last 24 months is, just shy of about 450 is the average loan size. And it's probably not good to look at just like a mean in that respect, right? So we help a lot of clients in the very high end of the space, right? Because we have a maximum loan size of $2.5 million. And even just to use round numbers, let's say you're going to put half down, that might be on a $5 million property. And we also help, clients buying a $200,000 condo and getting a $100,000 loan, right? And then everywhere in between. So it's, I would say that the super high end luxury penthouses for 25 million, our max loan size is going to be a drop in the bucket toward that. But we do it, right? And or we do cash out refinance against those higher end luxury properties. But we run the gamut, and we help everyone that fits in that buy box. We see the values come in all over the place. We use a commercial appraisal to get to value, but whether it be for refinance, a cash out refinance, or for purchase. And we order that directly from a certified appraiser that has the right credentials through Mexico City, even though they're local to Los Cabos, for example. And then the appraisal comes back in pesos. We translate it to US dollars at the prevailing exchange rate. So we take care of all of that through the origination process, give clients that sort of peace of mind that that asset they're buying is worth what they're paying for it.
Moving forward here, I know you kind of mentioned, we actually, our personal portfolio, Alex, we have a lot of pre-construction. I'd say a lot of pre-construction here in Cabo. I mean, the market's so hot now that a lot of these newer developments aren't even offering it. But I don't believe you guys it has to be a built out property. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. And then can you kind of explain a little bit further? Like, let's say somebody has like a developer financing of 5, which is usually about average 3 to 5 years. Sometimes I'll go out to 10 years, but let's just say and these people are generally putting down like 50% and then they're financing that remaining 50%. Who comes to you in that situation? You said they might have like a balloon payment coming up and then you guys can help them and breathe a little bit easier. Can you explain some of those?
So if the client is developer financing today, right, and there is a balloon payment on it, and whether the balloon payment is, next month or, 3 years from now, right, we help clients regardless. We would come in and pay off the developer. And if the property legally transferred at that, at the time that the client moved into the house, right, and started making payments to the developer, then we would, extinguish that lien, right, and pay off the developer. If the client wanted more cash out at the time and qualified for it based on the appraised value and the income, we could provide extra cash out in addition to paying off the developer financing, and then allow them that term length up to 25 years to repay the note. So people really appreciate that and come to us often. Again, even if they just closed last month and their balloon payment is not for 5 years, they just found out about us or something like that. And so now they're like, hey, I just want to get this settled now. And so we help with that. And, if they put half down, but the property's already appreciated, sometimes we can finance the closing costs or give them, extra cash out, which people really appreciate. And then with respect to pre-construction, so we get this question a lot because there's so many folks coming and there's not a lot of inventory. And so they're, like settling for, okay, fine, I'll be able to move in a year. And I think it's another really big difference between, US pre-construction and Mexico pre-construction, where you actually have to pay upfront before you are able to move in, right? You're going to make a payment at the time of contract signing. You're going to make a payment usually at roof on, so halfway through, if you will, and then you're going to make the final amount, at delivery. I think there are some more exotic versions of that, but more or less that's kind of the schedule, and that does concern people sometimes, but it is very customary in Mexico. And is distinctly different than the US. So where we help with pre-construction financing, number one, we're in discussions around, developing a product to help with that. But for now, where we help is we come in at delivery. And, for example, let's say in that case that I just shared, like where you have a contract signing payment, you have a roof on payment, and then you have the rest at delivery. Let's say it's 20% at contract signing, 30% at roof on, and then the remaining half at delivery. We would come in at the end, attach the lien to the property when it's done, make the final 50% payment to the developer. If the client wanted to borrow up to 60 or 65% LTV, that client can take cash out, and we would help with the closing. In that respect, use a different example where it might be 40% at contract signing, 30% at roof on, and 30% at the end. Then we just offer the client even more cash at the end, and they end up with a 60% loan to value, and it all shakes out perfectly in the end.
Nice. That's really good to know. Great options for people here, because like you said, another thing about like Cabo is a lot of people will call like the Cancun area mature, and Cancun turned 50 years old a year ago, and that would just like baffle people. So the market here, there's still if you go Los Cabos in general, there's still more land than there is development, so there's going to be construction going on for a while. So it's good to hear those options. And Alex, man, I got so many questions here. I don't want to keep you for too long, dude, but this great conversation. I'm curious. I don't think you guys would offer something, but I had a guy reach out and he's owned land here for a while, and it's basically it would be like a commercial construction loan or something like that. But I think this lot is zoned commercially, and he wanted to do either like 6 or 8 condos to sell. That's something that really right now in the market does not exist for a foreigner. That's something that you guys would be able to do, correct?
Like construction financing to build the condos, or once
Yeah.
they're done. Yeah,
Yes.
it's not in our regular wheelhouse of what we do. We don't today have a product either for developers specifically or for consumers that are buying pre-construction. We do, look at situations from time to time, right? There are new businesses emerging every day in Mexico with respect to real estate. Like, I mean, even look at fractional ownership of, luxury properties in Los Cabos. Like, we're evaluating that with several partners right now. So nothing is ever something that we wouldn't look at or try to help our partners in the local real estate market. So by all means, like, let's have a separate chat. But generally speaking, Global's credit policy is specifically focused on, the end consumer getting a mortgage on product that's already delivered, right? Or where we can actually attach a lien to it.
But thank you for all these responses there, Alex. We'll kind of end with two of the easier ones here, I would imagine. Where do you see Global in like 5 or 10 years? Do you guys see yourself? And to me, just Alex, I really like what you guys are doing. It seems to me like it's getting a little bit more competitive. People are getting a little bit more comfortable. You guys are learning the system a little bit better. Whereas I don't think you might have done like those pre-construction options maybe a couple years ago. But do you guys see yourself getting bigger in Mexico and then possibly going outside of Mexico? Or is it just really kind of like touch and feel as we go? But it seems to me the business model is growing in a very sustainable, organic way right now.
Yeah, great question. And you're spot on, right? So we are backed by billions of dollars of capital to deploy, right? And it's at the ready, right? And those funds that we fund these mortgages through are like ready to help us and are behind us, right, in this expansion effort. I think where we've been really focused the last couple of years in particular is building that foundation of like transparency, security, and stability. And we've got that foundation. We're building great partnerships on the ground in Mexico and starting to do the same thing across Latin America. And that's the really critical piece that's now, behind us, which is exciting. And now we're on this path of, rapid growth and scale, because we know that there are hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people that we can serve that just don't know we exist in Mexico alone, right? So we are rapidly looking at our physical presence into different markets across Mexico. And then we are looking at other Latin America countries and using what we've learned, building this business and building it the right way with the right foundation, and applying that to serve the very same client base, but in other countries and in other citizenships for Mexico or other parts of Latin America. So that's our focus. I mean, if you zoom out and look at our vision, it's really focused on the world and its people, and that real estate or home ownership should not be limited to the citizenship of your home country, right? You should be able to buy and securely own property in another country. And that's our core, vision. And so we're not limited just to Mexico. I love Mexico. We have an incredible team. We have a lot more to do in Mexico. But we're rapidly growing and expanding, in alignment with that mission.
It's the name of the podcast there, Real Estate Without Borders. I think especially just globalization, internet, people are starting to realize that a lot of these areas that they didn't think, it might have been a dream or just a vacation place, they could actually live in real estate. Before I let you go, I'm actually interested for this answer. I think I might already know what you're going to say, but if you had to pick one place in Mexico to buy a place, what city would it be?
Oh my goodness. That is like a really hard question. I have seen some amazing properties in Los Cabos that I think have incredible upside potential. So here's the thing that that I'll just share with you, and I guess everybody else that's going to listen to this. Because I'm the president and CEO of the company, I'm an excluded borrower. So I'm not allowed to get a mortgage from my own company. It's just kind of a standard. If I could, like, I would be unstoppable because there's so much opportunity in Los Cabos in various areas, from an investment standpoint and just like a pure amazement and living in just the wonderful cultures and even subcultures across Baja California Sur. There is also, I think there's a lot of great stuff happening in Nayarit, in Riviera Nayarit. I think that's sort of a expanding area where people are starting to discover its natural beauty. San Miguel de Allende is also beautiful. I think, as you touched on a couple of minutes ago, I studied abroad there. I'm dating myself, but like 20 plus years ago. And it's an incredible place. It's not oceanfront, right? So, but there's just a awesome feel to that town, and it does attract a lot of foreign buyers. It's a really, really hard question, man. I can't give you like one particular answer. All I'll say is that like there are just absolutely incredible options out there across Mexico. I would like to buy property in all of them, frankly. And so maybe when we change the credit policy guidelines and I'll be allowed to get a mortgage for my own company, I'll be hitting you up. We'll go write some contracts, right?
Nice. Kind of slid around that one, but I'll let it slide there, Alex. Good answer.
Yeah, I know.
That was the good CEO answer right there without getting anybody.
Well, you can't ask me to like pick what. I mean, they're just incredible areas, right? Like it's pretty it is a CEO answer, but pretty genuine one in that like I don't even think I could stack rank them like 1, 2, 3 of where I would go first.
I don't want to keep you too long, Alex. Thank you so much for your time. Before we get running, what's the best way that somebody could get in contact with you?
Yeah. Great question. So globalmortgagemexico.com or globalmortgage.mx, either of those is a great place to start. Can submit, pre-qualification information or just contact info. On our website, we also have some great FAQs that talk a little bit about what we do. I would just encourage folks to send us an email. It's info@globalmortgage.mx, and get in touch with us that way, and just have a chat with one of our mortgage advisors and talk a little bit about what we do. We also have some great materials that supplement what's on the website, and we just put together, in the name of transparency, which is our core operating principle, right? We just put together like a fairly dense letter, but it's directed at clients that really explains some of the stark contrasts between purchasing and financing property in Mexico versus in the United States. So we're looking to get that, uploaded to our website, but for now, our mortgage advisors can send it out.
It's a pretty painless process, right, to get approved, right? It's very quick. You can submit some information and really get it done, correct? It's not a whole process.
Yeah. Oh, great question. We've painstakingly built a process so that it's easy and fast. So when I came to Global, I did a lot of listening to clients, to real estate partners, to third-party vendors, to even government officials, and really was trying to figure out like what are the biggest pain points and what are the biggest ways that we can adjust our process to help. And so we've built a robust workflow. One of the biggest pieces of feedback I heard was like, oh, financing through a Mexican mortgage broker, which we're not. We're actually a financial institution, but is risky and can take a super long time, and it's better to just do it with cash because they might not have the capital, they might not show up for the funding, or it's a very long, elongated process. And so we are laser focused on closing faster than cash. So not just like the same, process, but actually faster. So we can close a loan. I think our record will be this month will be, 24 days, which is similar to the United States, right? Which is pretty cool. We provide thorough credit decision or a binding credit decision, if you will, within 72 hours of submission. So if a client comes to us, they either go onto the website and submit an application or talk to one of our mortgage advisors and get over the documents that we request, we will have a credit decision, a conditional approval, let's hope, within 3 business days, which gives clients a lot of confidence to be able to, wire that earnest money deposit for their new property. We will finish the underwrite within 48 hours of any condition submission. So like if the original underwrite says, oh, we need one more pay stub or something like that, right? Like we'll sign off on those conditions in 48 business hours. And then, we order an appraisal and a title search. And this is all relatively seamless and on the back end. But we built this process so that we can consistently deliver for our real estate partners and for our clients a very expeditious process. So long as all parties are engaged and get us what we need. But yeah, it's pretty painless, pretty easy, pretty simple. And we've been really focused on building that out.
Nice. Well, thank you so much, Alex. Alex Koper, Global Mortgage. Thank you so much for your time, and any closing remarks before we shut it down?
Yeah, hey, I really appreciate you having me on, man. This has been a lot of fun, and I love to talk about what we do and the passion that our team has. And it's always great spending time with you. So look forward to, any of your listeners reaching out to us or to me directly, and we're happy to help. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Alex. And thank you everybody else for taking the time to listen. Until next time, hasta luego.